Welcome to the Hurdle Podcast. It's playoff season, and we're gonna break down the wild card round. We got this fancy dancy playoff simulator, and then once we give our wild card picks, we'll kind of go on from there, and we'll give you guys like our Super Bowl picks because I know we made Super Bowl predictions middle of the year, but now the field's set. We have the final 14, so we'll go from there. But before we get started, gotta thank our sponsor, SeatGeek. Guys, if for some reason you're going to a playoff game this weekend, which first of all, we're both jealous. Second of all, might as well use code Hurdle Podcast on SeatGeek to get $20 off your tickets. I really wish I could make it to Dallas to see the Cowboys game, but sadly, broke college student, and then we gotta go back to college. But yeah, guys, SeatGeek judges or grades their seats, almost like how sports cards are graded. Green, good, about 90-ish. 9.0 is really good. Once you get down to like below 5, not really a good deal. But yeah, they have a great way to arrange their tickets. They pull from all kinds of sites, and they have their own direct tickets. But yeah, use code Hurdle Podcast in the promo code, and you'll get $20 off your first purchase. We'll link all that in the description. But yeah, Bailey, how you doing, my guy?
Doing good. Playoff football is in, as the time this video will probably come out, 10 hours. So, yeah, I'm super excited. Playoff football it's the best time of the year, almost every year besides March Madness. So, yeah, every sports fan on the planet should be hyped up for playoff football coming in. So, yeah, I'm doing great.
And especially because we got great matchups. There's a few that I think we both are really going to agree on, but we were kind of talking before. There's going to be a few we disagree on. So we'll jump into it. So the first game of the playoffs is this one right here. We got Cincy, Las Vegas in Cincinnati. What's the spread, Bailey? Do you have the spread?
Yep. Cincinnati's favored by 5.5 at home.
See, 5.5 at home. You're going to get the Bengals, who got rest because they played Cleveland last week in a meaningless game. So Burrow will be healthy. He got injured at the end of the, I believe KC game was a little iffy the last week and a half, except when he played the Ravens, obviously. But yeah, that's good for them with the rest. They're going to get him rest. They're going to get Burrow rest, Mixon rest, Jamar Chase rest. Whole offense is going to be clicking. And then you flip that to the Raiders. We talked about the classic in Vegas. That's what I think I don't know what you're going to call it. It's going to be something like the Minneapolis Miracle, because this was one of the most insane games we've ever seen because of the implications and the craziness of if there's a tie, both get in. But the Raiders said, nah, it's just win, baby, not just tie, baby. R.I.P. Al Davis. But yeah, I'll start off. I think Cincy takes this one. They've rested their starters. I think, the Raiders are going to have a short week because that Sunday night game went late into Sunday, and now they have to turn around and play the first Saturday game. I think that could be an advantage for the Bengals. And I trust the no shot at the Raiders. Their head coach, his name's really hard to say, so I'm not even going to try. Bisaccia. But I really think this Bengals coaching staff finally has it figured out. And the Bengals are finally going to get a playoff win for like the first time since, I think, the 90s, if I'm not mistaken, because they've been in playoff games. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think they've won a playoff game since then. They've been in the playoffs, but they haven't won them, Marvin Lewis's stint. But yeah, I'm going to take Cincinnati in this one. I feel confident in that one.
Yeah, I'm a little more shaky, just for a couple reasons. I am going to take Cincy as well, probably by 3, like a 27-24 kind of deal. The over-under is 48.5, if you're wondering, so that'd put me at 51. But there's a couple key things I think Cincinnati really needs to focus on. One of them is Max Crosby. You saw how they were lining him up against the Chargers, because the Chargers don't have a great offensive line outside of really Rashawn Slater and Corey Linsley. So that he was exposing that right side of the line all night long. I think he had like 2.5 sacks in that game or something like that. So his force, he's going to be going up against a backup tackle because their starting right tackle, I think, is out for the year. So he's going up against a backup tackle that really hasn't, and he's been all right. Can't remember his name off the top of my head for some reason. But so stopping Max Crosby is key number one, because Cincinnati's entire game is the deep ball, really. Like, it's going deep to Higgins, it's going deep to Chase.
Gotta give Burrow time.
And you have to give Burrow time, even though he's great at improvising. But Burrow's at his best when he is just sitting in the pocket throwing lasers. And I think that's where Cincy's offense really thrives, is if you give him time to make decisions, because he almost always seems to make the right read, especially in clutch games. We saw it his entire career at college. So I'm gonna take Cincy here, but I'm very scared to see how if Cincy's O-line can handle Max Crosby, and if they can shut down Josh Jacobs, because Josh Jacobs has been electric these past 4 weeks. That was my second key to this game, because he really sealed the deal against the Chargers last week, and he got a buttload of carries in that game. I think it was north of 20, 25, something like that. And he's really been their
Especially in the clutch.
Yeah, especially in the clutch. Like, he ripped off chunk after chunk in that overtime drive. And he's really been their workhorse since Bisaccia has taken over. You've really seen much more of an establishment of the run game and not just leaning on Derek Carr. So even with that being said, though, I think Cincinnati still finds a way. Their offense is too potent. It's too dominant. They have too many weapons that you have to guard. And I'm with you here. I think Zach Taylor's finally figured out a little bit of the balance that they're working with. Jamar Chase definitely helps, and Burrow has his go-to guy there. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders win, but playoff game on the road, it's a little tough for me to go with that, but I think they cover the spread.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't give mine. I think Cincy by 7. The interesting thing with a lot of these games, you look at the Bengals game against the Raiders, the Bills, Patriots, and Chargers, and Chiefs, Pittsburgh. Very cold games. They're going to be very cold. Buffalo might be one of the coldest games in NFL history. Yeah. But it wouldn't be surprising. This Cincinnati game is going to be pretty cold. You know, the Raiders are now in Vegas in that nice stadium. That could play a big factor. But I think it's funny how you look out in the NFC and indoors, and in Florida. So that's kind of funny. But so the next game for Saturday, Buffalo, New England. Again, like I said, one of the colder games. We get part 3 of this epic trilogy of 3 passes in the first game by the Patriots, and then the Bills really dominating in the second one. You know, it's hard to go against Belichick. It's kind of like the whole Saban thing, you know. You don't bet against them in the clutch when it's the most important of games. I'm not going to doubt that Belichick doesn't have this team ready, but I think what it's going to come down to is, I don't care how cold it is, I don't care how windy it is. If it's 50 mile per hour again, I'm worried, but I don't think it's going to be that windy.
Gusts of like 12, I think, is what I'm reading in the weather report.
Exactly. So what Buffalo's been playing with all year at home. So for that reason, I just look at the big thing's going to be the quarterback matchup. I really think that's the big difference between these two teams. You got Mac Jones, who's had a decent rookie year, versus Josh Allen, who's really turning it on as of late outside the game where he threw 3 picks against Atlanta in the snow. But I look at it. It's hard to pick against a Belichick team, but I really believe in this Bills team. I'm going to put Buffalo through. I think the run game for New England has to be stopped. If it doesn't, it keeps it very close. But Josh Allen's arm, I really trust his arm in this game.
Yeah. I think the Patriots are at the stage where the Bills were 1 or 2 years ago, when Josh Allen was just getting started with McDermott and Daboll as the OC. Rookie quarterback for New England on the road. That formula almost never meshes well. Even when Belichick is coaching your roster, which, like you said, Belichick is basically the Saban of the NFL. You just don't bet against them in huge games, especially if it's the Super Bowl. But yeah, I'm going Buffalo here too. I know Josh Allen doesn't play well in the cold. I'm really looking for Buffalo's defense to step up to the plate, almost how they have all year. And the difference between the first time they played, where Mac Jones threw 3 passes, and now this time is Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary has been able to run the ball at a very high rate. I think he had 18 carries last week. He had like 21 the week before that. So he's getting in that realm of 15 to 22 carries, which is a workhorse running back. And that's what Buffalo's been looking for the entire time, and they're getting great gains off of it. I think he had 80 yards last week on 18 carries. So, I mean, do the math. That's like what, six a pop, something like that, 5.5, somewhere in there. So yeah, I just with the establishment of the run game in the cold, I know Josh Allen doesn't play well in the cold, but I think he makes the big play when he has to. I also think this is going to be a close game, low score. I like the Bills by 4.
Oh, really? I was going to little flip flop. I like Buffalo 24-14. I like a 10-point win out of the Bills. I think they're hitting at the right time. They're kind of like Green Bay. Green Bay's getting healthy at the right time. Same with Tennessee. Buffalo's ready at the right time. And I think, in years past, they maybe haven't been, like when they played the Colts and then when they played the Chiefs. But yeah, I do like this Buffalo team this year to maybe make a run here. Let's jump to the Sunday games. Do you want to finish AFC or should we go in order of games?
Let's go in order.
All right, so Bucks Eagles will open up Sunday. I don't know the spread. I frankly don't care. I know Miles Sanders is back this week for the Eagles. 8.5.
Yeah.
I know Miles Sanders is back. That doesn't mean Nick Sirianni's going to use him at all. Jalen Hurts' first playoff game. Of course, he plays the Bucks in Tampa. This is a recipe for disaster, I think, for the Eagles. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Cowboys fan. I think there's a way they can beat Tampa Bay. A lot has to happen. It's almost like how the Steelers got in. A lot has to happen for a Eagles win. And for that reason, I think it's pretty obvious. I'm taking Tampa Bay. I think by 17. I don't see it being really that close, like 27-10. I think Tampa's defense is really going to step up in this game.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that last notion. Tampa's front seven is just monstrous. Of course, Vita Vea, of course, JPP, Shaq Barrett, and then you got the tackle machine in Devin White, and then his older partner in crime, Levante David. I mean, that's like Levante David's been like
because he's coming back this week.
I think so. So he's been an all-pro like the last 20 years. What it seems like, but yeah, Tampa is absolutely loaded defensively. They have the gears to stop the run, get to the ball, and I think this is the time where they really activate it and Todd Bowles really starts to dial up the pressure, like we saw with Kansas City in the Super Bowl last year, because he had Mahomes not know what he was doing pre-snap, and then that just caused him to not know what he was doing post-snap. I think he can have that same effect on Jalen Hurts, and they have the ability with that front seven to stop the run game. Antoine Winfield has been back for a couple weeks now. He's very underrated in his ability to also help stop the run. So I think this Bucks team is really geared to match up with Philly well. I know Philly's the number one rushing offense in the league. I know Miles Sanders is returning, who I think is the most underrated running back in the league really all year.
Underused.
Yeah, underused and underrated. But yeah, I like Tampa by 10. Brady it happened with Washington last year. Kind of scared you in the first round. I think Tampa maybe starts off slow a little bit, which will keep this close up until about, I don't know, beginning of the fourth, where Tampa scores on a drive and then gets a stop and then maybe scores again with a field goal, which will put this game out of reach. But yeah, I like them by 10, like 31-21, something like that.
Yeah, very interesting you say that because really Tampa's last few games, like the Carolina game and the Jets game, really slow starts and then they turn it up in the fourth. So that's going to be interesting if it happens again because now you're in playoff season. You really can't be at the last second be like, oh, okay, we got to turn it up here in the fourth quarter. Like, I don't care if it's Philly. If Philly's been known to slow start and then pick it up too. So you also can't underrate that.
If they're down 10, I like half. honestly probably wouldn't be worried as a Bucks fan because you got Tom Brady and the number one passing offense in the NFL. So, um, yeah, I think they take them by 10 for those reasons.
Yeah. All right. The game on Nickelodeon, CBS, whatever you want to call it, and MVP will be named for this game. I know my brother joked and said, of course, the Cowboys game's on Nickelodeon, but Dallas taking on San Francisco in Jerry World. Bailey, what's the spread?
Spread is Dallas is favored by 3 in Jerry's world. Yep.
Now, again, we try to not be biased here, and I'm trying not to be. I know I told you I was very happy we drew the Niners, and then I really sat back and was like, okay, I really would have liked Philly, obviously, but I didn't want Arizona. I mean, we had lost them, and Arizona doesn't look the greatest, but again, just come off loss to them. I think this Niners team's scary. I think Deebo Samuel is a problem for this Cowboys defense, especially if Trayvon Diggs is following him. But I think the big factor in this game is going to be Micah Parsons. If he can cover George Kittle when he has to well, and he can get after Jimmy G, I think he could be a massive game wrecker for this defense, because really him and Lawrence are the only pressure they really get on quarterbacks. I mean, I guess Gregory too. But coverage-wise, Van Der Esch is okay. I don't like the matchup with Kittle with Van Der Esch, but if it's Parsons, I feel a little better because Parsons is just a athletic freak, and I think he could cover George Kittle. So for that reason, I think the offense figures it out. I am a little worried with Nick Bosa going up against Tyron Smith. That scares me. I love Tyron, but he is not as great as he once was, even though he keeps making Pro Bowls. I'm worried about that. I think Nick Bosa will have a huge game. So I think it'll just come down to which offense can execute the best. I think the defenses will show up. And for that reason, I don't trust Jimmy Garoppolo in the playoffs. I know he got the Niners to the NFC Championship 2 years ago, but that was with a completely different run tactic or scheme. This is a different Niners team offensively. For that reason, I'm taking Dallas by right on the spread. I'm taking them by 3. I think this Niners secondary could get exposed by CD and Amari, even though they had a pretty good game against the Rams last week. But yeah, I'll take Dallas by 3.
Yeah, I think out of all the games, this one is the one I might be most excited for. Just because I think the Niners have the huge capability to make a deep playoff run, like Super Bowl caliber deep playoff run, which could be shocking. But I think if you talk about quarterbacks and what they have to prove in this game, I think Dak has more to prove than Jimmy in this game, just because Dak's never really been in this position. He's been in 1 or 2 playoff games, but Jimmy's taken him all the way to the Super Bowl, like you said. He's had experience with the Patriots, riding Tom Brady's coattails like 2 Super Bowls. So Jimmy knows what to do in these situations. I agree with your take on Parsons. I think that's spot on. But when they take him off to guard Kittle, there's got to be other pass rush there. Like, you still got to get to the quarterback. So if you use Parsons in coverage, I think if you're a Cowboys fan, you rotate him in and out between him and Van Der Esch, give him different looks, of course. And you're not going to give him the same 4-3 look or whatever. You're going to switch it up. You're going to go into nickel. You're going to throw safety on him once or twice. Then you're going to go into dime, switch up your formations a little bit. But I just think the Niners have huge potential to win this game. I know it's on the road, but Elijah Mitchell is healthy. Debo is healthy. Brandon Ayuk is playing like a stud. And they've really been winning games without George Kittle being a huge factor. Like, they beat the Texans by, I know it's the Texans, but by like 17, and Kittle had 2 catches. I think Kittle has a decent game in here, probably like 8 for 65 or something like that. But I think they really take advantage. I think they get Diggs to bite on one big play. I know that all the binoculars are going to be zoomed in. The microscope is heavily going to be on Trayvon Diggs, and if he bites on a double move, because that's his thing. He likes to jump routes, and maybe he jumps one in this game and gets one. But I just like my odds with first-team All-Pro Deebo Samuel out there. If that's going to be the situation, I like him in the backfield. And just with how creative Shanahan is, I like their ability offensively to put points up. As far as defensively for the Niners, Nick Bosa, and Nick Bosa. I know Tyron Smith's going to be guarding, but they move him all around the line. And the Niners outside of him, they still have probably the most underrated front seven in the whole league. Because you still got Fred Warner in there too, who's just wreaks havoc over everyone's run game. And I agree with you. I worry a little bit about their corners, especially when Josh Norman's your two. But I just think they're going to be able to scheme well enough to maybe, and you can't hide from Amari and CD. I think one of them probably has a pretty big game. But I just like the Niners' capabilities to win this game. They've been there before. Even though they're young, they still all have that experience, which Dallas kind of lacks. And I think there needs to be a little bit of a learning curve in there. So I'm taking San Fran in this game by 3.
Oh, very, very nice. Little difference there. I like that. Yeah, I think this could be a big score. I know we talked a lot about the defense. This could be a really big score, especially if, like we said, Trayvon bites on a few and that secondary gets burnt by CD or Amari once or twice. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to watch. All right, so you got Niners. Chiefs Steelers will be the Sunday night cap. Big Ben, it's been fun. I know your funeral is taking place at Arrowhead. Give me the Chiefs by 24.
Woo.
I think this is like 34-10. Like, I really don't see a way. I mean, there's rumors Juju's going to be back. Okay, that doesn't mean anything, honestly.
Oh, really?
He was practicing.
Interesting.
Which is weird to say because a shoulder injury, you don't want to rush it, especially if you're
A free agent
playing Kansas City. I mean, maybe he wants to play one last game with Ben. I could see that, but that does not matter. I don't care if Juju's playing or not. I'll take the Chiefs in the TikTok battle 20 by 24, 34-10.
Wow. I don't know. Of course I'm taking the Chiefs. Let me get that out of the way. After the first time they matched up, I don't think there's any way you don't pick the Chiefs in this game unless you're a Steelers fan, which the Daniel Carlson thing, that was pretty cool. So shout out Steelers fans for that. But if you didn't hear, Steelers fans donated to Daniel Carson's charity because he put them in the playoffs because kicked the Chargers out. So there's your little catch up. But yeah, I just see the road ending here. I don't think it's going to be as excessive. I think it's going to be lower scoring than last time they played because I think the Chiefs hung like 30 in the first half the first time they played. And they ended up scoring like 37 or 40 or something like that. I don't think it's that excessive yet again, just because Tomlin's too good of a coach to let that happen over again, let the same game duplicate itself. And that defense is too talented to let that happen again. So I do have the Chiefs by 14. The spread's 12.5 at Arrowhead. But I think it's going to be a little lower scoring on Kansas City's end than what you may normally expect. I like 28-14. The Steelers offense, even though they have all the weapons in the world, there's no offensive line here. And Chris Jones is going to have a heyday. Frank Clark is going to have a heyday, I think. And I think they're really going to manhandle him up front. Like Najee's longest carry against the Chiefs last time, I think was like 15 or 18 yards. So if they can shut down the run game, which I definitely think they do here, just because that Steelers offensive line is so inexperienced, so young, and just not extremely talented comparatively to KC's front seven. And Melvin Ingram, who's had a huge impact on that too. He's been fantastic. I just think they kind of dominate him up front, shut down the run game, and force Ben to play really a perfect game, which he hasn't done in 2 or 3 seasons. So, yeah, I like Kansas City's odds in this game by 14.
Very nice. And then the first ever, which I don't like it, but Monday night wild card game. You've got the Rams and the Cardinals. I just don't like it because then they go into a short week, but you could argue that with the Saturday games. It's whatever. Rams Cards, what's the spread on that?
4 for LA at home in Inglewood.
Very nice. Yeah. So I think the last time they played in LA, the Cardinals dominated, but that was at the beginning of the year when the Cardinals were really rolling to that hot start. They've cooled off of late. And the Rams are kind of figuring it out. Again, Stafford worries me. Though he has more playoff experience than Kyler Murray. That could be a good thing for the Rams. It could be a bad thing for the Rams because that playoff experience was in Detroit. I mean, okay, yeah. Let me put back up the Cowboys because that's who I had. If it'll,
Yeah.
Oh, is it not clicking anymore? Oh no. Tech. There we go. Okay, so if I just like the Rams too much, they are too talented to not make it to the second round, I think. So I'm gonna take the Rams. I think it's low scoring. No, not low scoring. I think it could be. I think it'll be medium scoring. I think 24-21 is right about where I have it. And I know I picked all the higher seeds. Just deal with it, okay? I sat there. I go, the only one I could see an upset in is the Cowboys Niners, and I'm surely not taking the Cowboys to lose in the first round. So there you go. I know I said we're not biased, but I'm kind of biased there. I don't see them losing first round. But yeah, I like Rams 24-21 in this one. I think watch for I think Ramsey has a big game. Ramsey might have 2 picks. I think he could jump a few on Kyler.
Yeah. I'm going LA here too. Not because I want to, just because I think they're going to win. I'm cheering for Arizona most definitely here. But I think LA, like you said, they're just too talented. Through just all the way around the board. Like you saw how much of an impact adding Von Miller to this defensive line was, because then the Cardinals had to give more attention to Von Miller, which let Aaron Donald have 3.5 sacks in that game. So really, it's just like, how are you going to block them? And then you got to worry about Ramsey deep, who, like you said, when they get pressure, Ramsey takes advantage every time that happens. And then some. Dude's just the epitome of a lockdown corner in this league. He's probably the best corner I've seen in a while. Since probably Prime Revis. I'd probably put him up there. I don't think they're the same tier, but I think he's the best corner I think all around I've seen since Prime Revis, just because what he does in run support, being able to get off blocks, make tackles, truck people over at the cornerback position. It's really something we haven't seen in a while. But yeah, I think the Rams defensively are just too much here. I worry about Stafford heavily. I know Cooper Kupp has been his go-to guy all year, but outside of Kupp, I mean, he just makes bad reads, I feel like sometimes, and he gives me just whiffs of Jared Goff when this team, that's what they were trying to get away from the entire time. But he does it in big moments, which scares me. Which is why I almost want to pick Arizona, but I'm not going to. I know Arizona is getting JJ Watt back from what I understand, which that is huge.
Yep.
Because dude just absorbs double teams like no other. But yeah, I just think LA is too talented all the way around. If they get a run game going, which is going to be harder with JJ Watt in there, I think they can get a run game going with Sony Michel, who, I mean, like, what happened to Darrell Henderson? Dude just fell off the map after getting injured. He's been out for, I don't know.
It's the cycle of a Rams running back. If you get hurt, you're screwed because the backup goes off.
Yeah, I don't understand, but Sony Michel has been very, very reliable in his time since replacing Henderson. And if they can get him going, Stafford can get working off of that. Like I said all year, that's the huge key to unlocking the Rams' potential in this offense, is getting the run game going early. I think they do that against the Cardinals. I like them by 7, 28-21.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's funny because I mean, we're dishing on Stafford. He had almost 30 straight completions from the game before and then the Niners game in a row. but then late just choked. Like,
Overtime, yeah.
I mean,
We'll pick an
they
OT.
didn't need, yeah, they didn't need to win, but it's still scary when you see that. All right. So we gave you our picks for the week. Our only difference, Cowboys, Niners. So now we'll just each kind of run through who we think we got Super Bowl. I'll just run through mine. I think Green Bay takes down the Rams. I think Green Bay is getting healthy at the right time. They're getting all their stars back. I think the Packers are very, very scary. I don't want to sound biased. I think Dallas can beat Tampa. I think it's doable, especially after the first game of the year. You could argue now that Tampa is not as talented and Dallas could be roughly about the same. So I'll take Dallas over Tampa. I don't feel confident in that one, but I think it could happen. It could. Because I also saw a statistic that it seems every other year Brady wins and loses. He won it last year. So I don't think he makes it this year. I'm just gonna be honest. His only weapons are Gronk and Mike Evans, which are two very hard weapons to stop. But I'll end the Cowboys love. I got the Packers representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. AFC side, I have Buffalo beating Kansas City. I think Buffalo is a scary draw now. I know they played last year and Kansas City kind of just dominated, but there's still that old Kansas City in there from earlier in the year of playing close games, losing those games. Really, the reason they're not the one is because they couldn't do anything against this Titans team. But I just like Buffalo right now. Like I said, they're hitting their stride at the right time. And then this side, I think it's going to be hard to stop a healthy Derrick Henry. I saw the videos of him at Titans practice. The man is looking better than ever. But at the same time, this Titans secondary worries me. And when you have an air raid offense, it's going to come down to who can control the clock. I think the Titans can control the clock, but I don't know if they put up as many points. So I'll take Cincy in an upset over the Titans.
Okay.
And then we set up the Bengals Bills in the AFC Championship. I think that would be insane. Two great offenses against two very talented defenses. I think the end will come for the Bengals. I like the Bills representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. And then all the talk of Rodgers leaving, I think, will end. I think Green Bay will win the Super Bowl. I don't think they're the most impressive one seed ever, but like I said, they are getting arguably 4 of their best 6 players at the right time back, with David Bakhtiari, Jair Alexander, and the Smiths coming off the edge, and Preston and Za'Darius. I think there's going to be too much to handle. But let me get it back to Bailey's.
And you can keep it. Hold up. And let's talk about yours for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dallas over Tampa Bay is absurd, but that's fine. Dallas on the road at Tampa yet again against playoff Tom Brady. I just don't like those odds. Like you said, you weren't confident. You weren't confident in it. Who I have in the Super Bowl. I think the Bengals beating the Titans is very interesting. I think there is potential for that to happen just because I'm just not very confident in Ryan Tannehill. And I am confident in Joe Burrow. But Tannehill's he was cooking last week with 4 touchdowns, but I think it was the Texans. So I really don't know what to think of him after the course this year. I know we lost Derrick Henry. So we were looking for some bigger games with him with Derrick Henry out, but he needs Derrick Henry desperately. So now that he's back, I don't know. And then Bills Chiefs, after what happened earlier this year, almost like I said with Chiefs Steelers, how do you not pick the Bills almost in that game after the shellacking they gave Kansas City early in the year when Casey's defense was horrific, which they've definitely bounced back since then. So, yeah, there's some interesting takes about yours. But, yeah, getting into mine here. So we're going to have 9. I'll start with Rams Bucks and then go across the screen. I like Tampa here. Simple as that. You got Tom Brady in the playoffs. I'm really not going to bet against that, especially with how inconsistent Stafford has been lately. And I know LA beat the crap out of them 15 weeks ago now. So, or 14 weeks ago, whatever that week was. It was week 4, I think. So, yeah, and that was a great game. And I know
super teams meet.
Yeah, I know Tampa's down Chris Godwin and Fournette for this. Godwin's done for the year. I don't know about Fournette's injury personally, but I don't know. Playoff Tom Brady, they were there last year. That defense is just too good to bet against. I know the Rams defense is fantastic as well, but then you also get home field advantage for Tampa. I like them there. I think Niners Packers is super interesting. Just because of what we saw in the NFC Championship 2 years ago. I know the Packers are much more developed since then. Devondre Campbell this year has been absolutely off the chain. Adding to that linebacker core now is Za'Darius and Preston. Like you said, they're just getting healthy at the right time. I can't bet against Aaron Rodgers, against Jimmy Garoppolo, so I'm taking Green Bay in that game. Moving on, Bengals Titans. Another interesting matchup that I'm going to be excited to watch. Derrick Henry against that fairly weak front seven of Cincinnati, but then you got Joe Burrow against a fairly weak secondary in Tennessee and Kevin Byard, who was the number 1 safety this year, according to PFF. So I really want to take Cincy in that game, but I don't think I can. Derrick Henry's just too good. That front seven, I think, kind of tears apart Cincinnati's old line, which isn't fantastic. But I wouldn't be surprised if Cincy wins that game if that matchup does happen. I also wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders beat Cincy and almost make it to the AFC Championship. So same thing with the Patriots. I wouldn't be surprised by that either. Just with the veteran leadership when you have a coach like Belichick. But Bills Chiefs, going Chiefs. I know the Chiefs have a really tough path to get back to a 3rd straight Super Bowl.
Yep.
Because they got to face the 2 teams that crushed them early on. But it is tough to beat a team twice in a row. I know we said that on multiple occasions here. And like Chiefs Steelers is happening twice again. But I don't know. Kansas City is just way too talented for me to not pick them. Andy Reid knows what he's doing when it comes down to postseason game planning. And then if they get home field advantage, Arrowhead actually has probably the biggest factor besides Lambeau on any of these teams. If you want to talk about out of any of these teams, if you talk about home field advantage. So I like KC there. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills win. I don't blame you for having the Bills in the Super Bowl. Chiefs Titans rematch. Vrabel cooked up one heck of a defensive game plan the first time they met. I don't know if they do that again.
It'll be interesting again.
I know you got to stop Melvin or Derrick Henry, but now the Chiefs have the addition of Melvin Ingram. I think they adapt. Spagnuolo is not fantastic defensively, but as a defensive coordinator, but I think he's good enough to get the job done. And I think 1 or 2 Tannehill mistakes shifts that game in the other direction. I'm going Kansas City to take the AFC. Now, Tampa, Green Bay. This is the matchup I want.
Interesting. If I'm not being really biased, I want to see Tampa. I want to see Rodgers Brady part 2 in Green Bay again. I just, I'm riding with Dallas a little bit. I think they could get hot at the right time. But this matchup is the most interesting. If this could be the Super Bowl, I would not complain.
Yeah. Part 2 of Brady going into Lambeau. And what can you say about both these rosters that we haven't said previously? I think the coaching matchup is very interesting between LaFleur and Arians. That's the only thing that worries me with Green Bay is LaFleur and his ability or lack of to equip some balls and actually go for it on 4th, just to be frank. And I don't know how else I can really put that. Just have a more aggressive mindset to go for it on 4th when you have Aaron Rodgers, who can make the plays. Todd Bowles drew up probably the best defensive game plan you can draw up against Aaron Rodgers last year, besides what Dennis Allen did week 1 of this season. But since then, Rodgers has really played flawless football all year long. I take Green Bay in the rematch at home. Um, like you said, and I think Packers Chiefs. I think this is the Super Bowl I probably want to see because you get, I think, the two probably most talented quarterbacks of all time going against each other, just pure talent and playmaking ability. And you get the veteran leadership and Rodgers on one side, but you also have the kid who's already been there twice and hasn't missed an AFC championship ever in his entire career on the other side. And then you got Green Bay's defense against Casey's offense, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams against Casey's defense, which has been stifling the second half of the year. But I like Green Bay. I would take them to win the Super Bowl. I just think this roster, like you said, they're getting healthy at the right time. LaFleur, after 2 runs through it, he should know what the hell he's doing now. And really coach his team to some wins. I think the only reason Green Bay won't be in the Super Bowl this year is Matt LaFleur. And I think the only reason Aaron Rodgers leaves after the end of the season, if they don't win the Super Bowl, is probably Matt LaFleur. Just as a young coach, but Green Bay is just too nasty all the way around. When you look at the step-up seasons that they've had from almost every position, their secondary is almost flawless. With the drafting of Eric Stokes, the removal of Kevin King, of course, which has been huge. He's actually played better in the nickel slot this year, and Eric Stokes has been fantastic outside. The step-up of Rasul Douglas, he's been fantastic this year. Yep. As an undrafted free agent signing, he's been huge. You got Savage and Amos guarding your backside. 3 fantastic linebackers. When Preston Smith plays really well, he's a streaky linebacker. When he plays really well, he catches fire. And then that front 7 or that D line can really stop the run and force teams to pass. I just don't know how this team really doesn't win the Super Bowl. I know you just don't have the utmost confidence because they've lost in the NFC Championship. Was it 2 out of the last 3 years or whatever? Actually, all
back-to-back years.
Yeah, back-to-back years. And they just keep getting there and missing out. I think it's finally the time that they break through and win the Super Bowl. So there's my bracket.
Very, very nice. One thing we did not mention, I did forget to mention, I'd be remorse if I didn't, you alum Eric Weddle coming out of retirement.
Yes.
The Rams help that back end. That's a big boost to that back end that's a little injured, a little streaky at times, bring in the veteran leadership. I think that could be huge for the Rams to maybe put them a little more over the cards, but I don't see it lasting long after that. But yeah, so really only difference really was I'm riding high on my team, and I have more upsets on that AFC side, but I mean, we have the same winner in the Super Bowl. And yeah, I mean, I would love to see with all the Rodgers stuff this year between he's leaving and all the COVID stuff and all that. I would love it to see him win it in Green Bay because, like you said, I think a win in the Super Bowl this year, I don't see a way he leaves, especially because then that also means Devontae's going to stay. Yeah, this is the biggest, I think one of the biggest moments in the Packers history is, do you keep your quarterback? And pretty much the way to keep him is, I mean, if they get to the Super Bowl and don't win it, that's one thing. But if they flat out just don't make it and lose to the Bucs here or the Cowboys or whoever it is, it's not a good look at all. Because then that's 3 years in a row you couldn't finish the job.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, with the addition of Weddle for the Rams, that's humongous in this game or in these next couple games. I don't know how he is in quote unquote football shape, but him and Ramsey played together, and Ramsey had his best years. Really, when Weddle was there, that defense was insanity. And now you just add that veteran guy who can play the zones, has insanely high IQ, and then you get to pair him on the side that Ramsey is on. It's kind of OP, just to be frank. But yeah, I really what's up?
Do we know if D-Hop's going to be back for the Cards?
I think he should be. That's what I'm hearing.
That makes it interesting. We get D-Hop Ramsey again.
Yes, and that's probably the best wide receiver CB matchup of the decade, really. Just the rivalry that those two have after being in the same division. Now they're in the same division yet again after they both get traded. We just get constant great matchups between those two. But I just don't see how Green Bay doesn't win it this year. And it hurts me as a Vikings fan. I hate Green Bay. But they're just too loaded all the way around. And they're not the most prolific one seed I've ever seen. But they just dominate, I think, the game in a different way that isn't as eye-opening. That when you have Rodgers as your leader, it almost seems everything goes under the radar. And yeah, they're just fantastic. I just worry with LaFleur. I think that's the only weak side of this roster or of this entire organization is Matt LaFleur and his aggressiveness. But you disagree?
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with. I don't think the Packers are the strongest one seed I've ever seen. Same with the Titans, but they're both just getting healthy at the right time. They did what they had to do to get the one seeds, and that's going to prove vital down the stretch. For these teams to make a push, you have them both going as far as conference championships. I have Tennessee one and done, but I mean, yeah, I don't like Green Bay either. I hate Green Bay, but I'm a Rodgers guy. I love Rodgers, but I agree. I think the only way they really don't win or at least get to the Super Bowl is if Matt LaFleur doesn't make an aggressive play call, which is weird to say because all these other young coaches like Brandon Staley for the Chargers, granted his team's not in it, and Zach Taylor for the Bengals, and McVay and Kingsbury.
McDermott too, I think you put that in there. Harbaugh. Yeah, all of them. They go for it. That's why their teams.
They go for it. And LaFleur's not really one that does. So it'll be interesting to say the least. I think we're both right on the money. I think the champs are going to be the Pack. But yeah, very, very nice. I like the share screen thing. This was really fun. I get to play with toys on this end.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're in store for probably one of the greatest playoffs really ever. Be interesting if the Chiefs make a third Super Bowl in a row, and maybe even win 2 out of 3. That'd be an interesting storyline. We'll see what the storyline for Mahomes
Dynasty.
is after this year. They've been in dynasty talks for 3-4 years now, ever since Mahomes had the MVP year. So, yeah, we're lining up for fantastic playoffs, starting in about 10 hours. So can't wait. So excited. That's gonna do it for this episode. As far as Hurdle podcast things go, we just dropped an NBA one about an hour ago as we're recording this. So go check that out. That is most likely going to be a major staple once this is over. We're rotating straight over into the NBA. So hopefully we're gearing up for a smooth transition there, but go check that out. If you haven't already, it's a little bit of a lengthy one, but if there's just certain spots you want to talk about, go click over, find those. In that episode, we talk about trade targets, or trade rumors, injuries, standings, last week of games. So if you're big into NBA, go check that out. Empty Net should be coming back very soon, probably when we go back to college. So they'll probably get one up and rolling. You'll see Jack and Nick for the first time on the podcast or on the YouTube side of the podcast. Thanks to SeatGeek for sponsoring. Code Hurdle Podcast, HURDLE PODCAST. All caps or lower cap or all lower caps works either way for $20 off your first order. That link is in the description. You see down below. As far as more Hurdle podcast stuff goes, Instagram at HRDL podcast. We post every time an episode drops here on YouTube. If you want to listen to just the audio version, head on over to Spotify or Anchor, type in Hurdle Sports to the search bar, go down to podcast, mine and Logan's name on it, and we're first there. So we're easy to find. with the blue and yellow guy doing the stiff arm. So yeah, check us out there. That's gonna do it. I'm Billy. That's Logan. Have a great rest of your day.